Welcome to NABORHood News, the program that brings you valuable tips and important information to help your business succeed. My name is Melissa, and I will be your host. If you'd like to know more about the candidates in the upcoming election, Danielle Hudson, our Vice President of Public Policy, will fill you in on the goals of the candidates that NABOR is supporting. Danny?
Hi everyone. This year, the Naples Area Board of Realtors recommends 4 candidates for election in the 2020 voting cycle. Bill McDaniel for County Commissioner District 5, Rick LaCastro for County Commissioner District 1, Crystal Kinzel for County Clerk and Comptroller, and Lauren Mello for Florida House District 80. The candidates NABOR is recommending in these races were evaluated on numerous factors and selected by the 2020 Election Screening Task Force. Each task force member was trained in Florida Realtors candidate screening procedures for identifying realtor champions. The task force members selected those candidates who strongly identify with issues important to the real estate industry, the free enterprise system, real estate buyers and sellers, and the preservation of private property rights. NABOR's Governmental Issues Committee held a virtual Meet the Candidates event on July 22, 2020, where each candidate presented their platform. Here are some of the highlights from this informative event, which could help you make your voting decision. Thank you.
Why are you the best person for the position that you are seeking? And tell us a little about yourself to help our members get to know you better.
Well, I'm already endorsed, so I don't feel like I need to answer that. Kidding. I have 24 years of service in the United States Air Force. I retired as a full colonel. I had 16 different assignments. You can go to my website and see my resume. Everything on there has already been validated by the American Legion and the VFW, because I have one troll on Facebook that's a supporter of my opponents that, thinks I made it all up. But the jobs that I had in the military, I believe, really prepared me for city management. I have a lot of financial background. I had bases that had billions of dollars of assets and hundreds of millions of dollars of multiple budgets. I was responsible for everything from, tens of thousands of airmen to one of the senior leaders responsible for Air Force One on Andrews. And then coming here, I wasn't born in Collier County, but I grew up in St. Petersburg and I've spent a lot of time here. I may not know every street sign in Collier County and in District 1, but the reality, as Bill will tell you, the 5 county commissioners need to know more than just being in touch with the community. Trust me, I'll be at every pancake breakfast and I'll have a ton of town hall meetings, way more than my predecessor. But the reality is, can you sit in one of those 5 seats and cross-examine the $1 million attorneys that represent the developers? Can you talk eloquently with your members about real estate, about short-term vacation rentals, about permitting and construction and things that we can speak on an equal level? I've still got plenty to learn, but my day one won't be my day one. And that's the reason why a lot of citizens actually packed this dining room back in August to encourage me to run. And then one of the very next calls I made was to Commissioner McDaniel, because I really respect how he leads. And he'll tell you we had a 3-hour breakfast and I hadn't filed for anything. But I know, I blame you, Bill. I blame you. But I bring the depth, I bring the experience, I bring the contagious enthusiasm, and most of all, I bring also, integrity and strong action. I won't sit there with my arms folded and listen to an attorney talk about a $300 million development and then ask 2 questions, one about palm trees and the second question about palm trees. You got to be able to do a deeper dive, understand the numbers. All the details aren't in the executive summary. And we have an awful lot to do. In the district that I represent, District 1, there's some people that think my biggest negative is that I live on Marco Island. One of the things I tell my supporters and others, it shouldn't matter where my mail is delivered. I've got fingerprints and footprints all over District 1. And as a county commissioner, you better know a lot more than just District 1. You better know all 5 districts. Bill needs me to be equally or almost as equally informed about District 5. So when something comes up, my vote isn't just looking at him and going, what are we going to do? And that I can ask probing questions as well, so we can collectively have a smart discussion and a smart decision. I know I bring that to the table. I'm going to be a full-time county commissioner. I've been running full-time as well. And I think that dedication shows that I really want to give back to this community, the resume that I bring to the table, but you have to have something to give back. I'm not here to bash my opponents. I said on day one, I'm running for the seat, not against opponents. But Donna Fiala doesn't own the seat, the people do. And so this isn't a monarchy, and it's not her job to anoint her replacement. It's the citizens who will pick. And I was very proud that you as an organization looked at our credentials and our backgrounds and whatnot and put all the other personal stuff out of it. So I know I will be a strong leader to join the other 4 commissioners. And if I didn't think so, I wouldn't have run. But I've been going full speed, and I know I will bring an awful lot to the discussion, especially some deep dive things when it comes to all the issues of a county commissioner. I mean, today the topic of the day is masks, but boy, you better know a whole heck of a lot about construction, environment, real estate, roads and grounds, runoff, water, and I've got a lot of that deep dive from my time as a base commander running a 725 square mile base at Eglin Air Force Base, and also, my time as a senior leader in healthcare, primarily here in Collier County.
I would like to believe that my actions as serving as your county commissioner for the first 3.5 years tenure is sufficient justification for my reelection. And you folks, those of you who know me and those of you who don't yet know me, will soon learn and understand I'm a systems guy. I didn't, like a lot of candidates that run for an elected position, they're mad at the incumbent or they want to fix a pothole. That's not how I go. Although as the elected complaint department, I will tell you, I have become very adept at fixing potholes. So if you need one fixed, feel free to give me a call. I believe government's not the issue. I believe it's the systems of government that need to be adjusted. We can't continue to do what we've always done and expect magnanimously different results. My votes, if you watch how I've done what I've done for my first 3.5 years, I have never flip-flopped once. I come into the meeting well-informed, understanding the circumstances, and have interviewed and talked to both sides of every particular issue that has come before me. I approach virtually everything I do with pragmatism. Now, in that room, and if anybody watched the hearing that went on yesterday, you can tell there's not a lot of pragmatism in that room. That room is fraught with politics and emotion. And that can oftentimes sway politicians. It doesn't sway elected officials. I pretty well know before I come into that room how I'm going to vote. Now, I have modified my decisions based upon new information and new input that has come before me. But as a general rule, I walk into that room knowing how I'm going to vote, giving consideration to the information that's provided to me from the podium and from our staff. But at the end of the day, that's what I believe in. I believe that's how governance should be conducted, not with politics and emotion, but with pragmatism and principle. I am extremely principled. Now, a little bit about me personally, for those of you who don't know me, how long have I been a realtor? Danny, have we figured that out? Danny went away. Oh, there she is. I don't know. I think I became a licensed realtor in 1984. 84, I think, is when it was. I opened my first real estate company in 1987. And I literally have closed kids. And for those of you who know, there's a difference. I literally have closed thousands of real estate transactions in our community throughout my 39 year tenure. As you know, I'm a huge advocate of real property rights. I will be at the front of the pack fighting to protect those real property rights for all of our citizenry. I believe that those of you that own a home have as much value and rights of protection for those property rights for your home as the person that owns a vacant tract of land or a vacant lot. So I don't know that much about my opponents. I have three. I have one Republican contender here in the primary, and then two in the general, a Democrat and a fellow who dropped his party affiliation to save the $1,700 filing fee to oppose me as an NPA. I've only had one experience with all of them together, and the only thing I have to say is they all have a lot to learn. There's a lot more to operating a functioning government than making stuff up as you go along. And certainly the decision making by committee is an interesting task for any of you. Lauren, you're the president of our current board, and you know that sometimes, and like yesterday, sometimes you're not in the majority, and it takes a while for people to come around and hear the other side of an equation. So with that, I'm looking forward to continuing to serve.
One of the things that sets me apart from my opponent, and one thing that I think is the most important, is that when you run for this position, the Naples Daily News originally called me in 2018 a reluctant candidate. I really did not consider running for office. I worked for Dwight, I worked for Don Hunter, both elected officials. I've been through campaigns. I much prefer unopposed to opposed, so I was really hoping for that this year, not this year. But the one thing that made this decision for me is this really isn't a position that you can be elected to be elected. In other words, this is a job. The constitutional officers, and particularly the clerk, we don't make the policy that Bill has or Rick would have. They make the decisions on what they're going to do. We have internal policies for our department, but the clerk's office and operations, we're the overseers. We're the watchdog of the Board of County Commissioners and what they do. We are the clerk of courts, so we do the same thing on the courts. We monitor the evidence, the information, all of the things that go into that, and we're the keeper of all the money and the funds. So when you mention the $2 billion budget and the diversification of Collier County, the clerk's office, we have to be intimately familiar with everything. All the constitutional office operations, because we produce the comprehensive annual financial report. So we have to know what the property appraiser does to get the money to us, what the tax collector get the money to us, and how those roll up. We're also the administrator or overseer of the Value Adjustment Board. The commissioners sit on that board, they have an attorney, but the clerk facilitates all of that. So you have to understand everything from marinas or sports parks or large contracts and bidding and how those all work, construction management at risk, real estate transactions through real property, banking, deposit, investments, finance. It is a conglomerate, and it's a huge conglomerate. And I've got that experience. I understand not only the finance side and all of those pieces, but I understand Collier County because I've been here for 32 years. And I was with the sheriff for 16 and was intimately familiar with the budget. And the sheriff had some funding issues with the board back in the 90s. We fought hard for funding of law enforcement, but I had to understand every aspect of the county budget. So I've been doing this a while. I'm definitely the most experienced, and I think I have the broadest base of knowledge and oversight because I have gotten involved in that. This isn't a job where you can just come in and be the clerk. The clerk has very important and responsible things that we have to do, and the integrity that you do them with is very important. And I plan to live up to that. I've got the proven experience of both the knowledge and the integrity, and that's why I decided to run again for a full 4-year term. There are still things I'd like to do and improve.
I will apologize in advance if you all hear dinging going off. It's base camp. I'm sure you all feel that pain because I can't mute it. Why do I feel I'm the best person for this position? I have 2 people that are running against me in the primary. I don't know much about them. I can tell you that being born and raised here in Naples, I am extremely invested in my community because I've been here all my life. I've raised 3 great children here, and I have owned 2 businesses in 2 different industries in this community. I am the only candidate who has actually created jobs in this community. I believe that I have the most experience in advocacy. Again, many of you have watched me over the years, whether I was chairing Govey, I've been heavily involved with RPAC, being on the board. I sit on an affordable housing board of directors currently, which I have served on for 5 years. I served 3 years on the Clary County Productivity Committee, which is appointed by, yes, you, Bill. Yeah, thank you, Bill, for that. Appointed by the commission, and basically we look at the budget. We work with Crystal's office very closely. They come in several times a year and talk to us about how we can cut the budget, how we can improve, the areas that we really need to focus on in the community. And I would say that's what sets me apart from the other gentlemen that are running against me.
Do you believe that the COVID-19 crisis will be catalyst for change, how government operates? And what proposals would you like to address any budget or revenue shortfalls due to the COVID-19 crisis?
I really, you're following up right straight on the answer that I gave you to the last question. And that had to do with why I chose to run as our county commissioner. I am a systems guy. I don't think government's the issue. I think it's the systems of government that are at best dysfunctional and oftentimes completely failing, depending on the system of government you can pick. The circumstances that have evolved out of COVID are wider than I ever really believed that we could go. But I think everything happens for a reason, ultimately for the greater good, all in its own time. As we move through this process and actually learn from the circumstances that have become evident, the weaknesses in our governmental systems are becoming glaringly obvious, at least to me. I have said regularly with the circumstances that are prevalent right now, we as a society need to enhance our level of education. Education is the key to success. We can't, there again, it just, I'm going to pick on the mandate thing yesterday. You all know where I fell on that decision. But if we don't educate people on the proper way to wear a mask, we're defeating the purpose of the benefits of wearing a mask. If we don't educate people on the necessities of proper nutritional values to build up their independent immune systems, I believe we're failing as a society. So I look to see, as we move through this process and continue to learn from this circumstance that's prevalent, I look to see some substantive policy adjustments. We, right now, I'm a father of 2. My daughter's 24, my son is 20. And I can remember when we were in the public school system, the people that would send their kids to school with things coming out of their nose and mouth that made me sick. Our school systems are germ buckets. Our places of work now have capacities of and I'm pointing at an air conditioning vent that's right above me. We have the capacity, and we know that the flu viruses and other viruses travel that are in fact airborne. We need to make some serious policy adjustments to protect employers and employees. Employees now should have the right to withdraw from coworkers so that they don't continue to spread viruses, whether it be COVID and or any one of the other 8 million viruses that are amongst the human race. We need to have protection for parental units who have kids that are in school that shouldn't have to send that child to school with that virus or whatever it is that the kid is sick with. They should be able to keep them home and or provide them with some accommodation so that parent doesn't necessarily feel fearful of losing their job. We also, on the same token, need to protect the employer. I've been an employer all my life and hired and fired hundreds and hundreds of people. And there are some employees, believe it or not, that would take advantage of a circumstance where we were making adjustments to provide for adequate withdrawal for an employee and taking advantage of a circumstance. So we at the same time as protecting the employees, policies need to be adjusted or adapted to protect the employer. So that's the long answer to a short yes. I believe that the circumstances that are prevalent right now are going to warrant many policy adjustments as we go forward.
One of the good things about our office, I guess, is that we are considered an essential service. So we had to, for both the courts, to keep things like domestic violence injunction filings, paperwork, processing. We have to keep those things moving for the court systems, even though things like jury trials were postponed, foreclosures and evictions have been significantly closed and impact your market and your customers. We were able to do a lot of things because we have e-filing, e-recording, and have automated those types of transactions. The more that we are able to automate and diversify our group. Back in 2008, we shut down several of the satellite operations to save money. So we brought everything into the courthouse. Well, what we learned with the pandemic or this COVID, you don't want everyone in one group. So putting them back out into the satellites not only gets them closer to the customers that they serve, save our people driving on our roadways, doing things far from home, and also putting things online so that people can do it from their homes when they have to stay here or when they have to quarantine in place. We had dealt with hurricanes, obviously, for the 30 years I've been here. Those are a whole different process of emergency responses. But COVID really brought it to the point, the distancing in a jury box. The jury box is this big. Where do we go? So rethinking how we do that, getting things online that the jurors can do at home before they come in and sit in a big room. As I said earlier, we've done some of that just in the last month and a half, 2 months. So yes, we'll be doing things differently. We'll be putting more services out in the satellites that exist. I'm going to take the existing people in recording in courts, put them out there so that we can do more things remotely, so that if you do have an exposure or you do have a virus like this, if you have one that shuts down here or there, we'll still be able to do things. We also have a pretty robust team of being able to work from home. A lot of our work is paperwork, or it was paperwork. Now it's almost all automated, paperless. In the courtrooms, the judges have a system that flows to our system. The county systems all integrate with our systems. So both our finance and accounting and comptroller role to the board, as well as the court systems and the recording that services you as realtors, we've automated quite a bit of that, but I want it to go even further. But yes, life as we know it, I think, will change with this. Unfortunately, we've been through other viruses and flus. I've lived through pigeon and pig flu and swine flu, or, we've had all those in my lifetime. This one acted differently. I some of the reactions were different than we've seen in the past, but we'll have to deal with that. And we can't always distance all of our people if they're interacting with customers. We can give them shields and barriers, and we've done that in almost all of our offices to accommodate those kinds of things. And so I think we're on our way, but it will definitely change how we're doing things. And it took a lot of restructuring to be able to get services to the people as much as we could during this time. I think we were very fortunate, knock on wood. I have not had to furlough any of our employees. They have been consistently working and paid. In Lee County, for example, she had to furlough 73 employees. That adds to the community problem, creates backlogs. So I'm very conscientious of budgeting, and we're very fortunate in Collier that because of that automation, we were able to earn some fees that'll keep us going through the end of the year.
I think you all probably know that in the beginning of this year, shortly after I became president, that we had to move very quickly. And we were fortunate that we were considered essential. And our board of directors, myself, staff, all moved very quickly on making sure that we were keeping everyone busy with having classes and education online, CE online, posting videos constantly to keep you all updated as to what was happening with the board and the organization. You know, 2020 has been crazy. It seems to pivot weekly, if not daily, and you have to just be fluid with it. I don't want to speculate as to what I see 2021 looking like. I believe that we will have a lot of issues. I believe we will have budget issues. I can tell you that when I filed in February, I kind of had a vision for what I would be going into the House and how that looked for me, and it's completely changed since February. You know, now with kids going back to school, that has been a huge topic about parents that are contacting me, asking me my position on schools. I do believe it should be a choice. I believe maybe we should have a hybrid. There are kids that are terrified to go to school wearing goggles and masks. There are parents that want the ability to do virtual learning. So I think that's going to be an issue going in. You know, I think about short-term vacation rentals. I have spoken, you know, many lobbyists have called me who represent short-term vacation rentals, and you're all familiar with the PPP, and the short-term vacation rental people have literally received, some of them received $1,000 max. And when you're shut down for months at a time, $1,000 is not probably going to barely cover your overhead between association fees and maintenance and utilities. So that is, I believe, going to be critical. I look at small businesses. Yes, are we blessed that we were deemed essential? Yes, but there's a lot of small businesses in this community that are now closed. And I'm not talking temporarily closed, they are permanently closed. So that gives me tremendous heartburn, because I believe that everybody should have the Southwest Florida dream to put in sweat equity and their own savings and become small business owners. That's all part of the dream, right along with home ownership. And that concerns me. So yes, I do believe we are going to see a tremendous impact from COVID, and it doesn't seem to be letting up at all. So I can't really, again, speculate how much worse it will potentially be, but I know we will have problems.
I saw that question on your questionnaire. Actually, the first thing I thought of was I was a commander during 9/11, and a question was, after 9/11, how did that change this country? And it changed us significantly when it comes to security and terrorism. Some of it has sort of thinned out over time. unfortunately, I mean, much like the space shuttle explosion, NASA was supposed to be totally reconfigured. And yeah, some good things happened, but those were the first things that came to my mind. COVID better change us for the good, for the better. We better have learned a lot of things from this. Just like I hope we learn a lot every time a hurricane comes through here and our emergency response gets better. Some of the things that I remember talking about and have been talking about them out in the community with COVID is, first of all, the reason you need 5 experienced county commissioners and not folks that just want to sort of do good things for the community is you have to be able to eloquently talk about these big business decisions, the help, opportunities. One of the things that I've done when I was a base commander at every place I was, that my predecessors I don't believe did enough, was pull business leadership, pull business organizations into the discussion. We're all in this together. You have 5 county commissioners sometimes that are up there. They all have varying backgrounds, but there literally are experts in your community. And not that you pull them in to have them tell you what to do, but you get their input. You make them part of the process on things. So right now, businesses are significantly suffering. We need to really talk to NABOR, Chamber of Commerce, many other organizations, on the days when the commissioners aren't meeting, I mean, there's still work to be done. I also think, and I've seen some of it, but I want to be helpful to ease some of the red tape. There's some businesses that, feel like, why does it take 9 months to get a permit to do something? Well, now when every dollar counts, COVID has really affected my business. I totally lost season. Some of the permits that they need for expansion or just to do some small little things, they need that stuff accelerated, not overly so where we're breaking laws, but what I say is a sense of urgency. I talked to Reinhold at Arthrex, and he's been upset at times over things. Hey, he's a big guy that brings a lot of business to Collier County, and he goes, I'm not looking for them to give me a special favor, but I want a little bit of a sense of urgency. It shouldn't take an exorbitant amount of time to lay a sidewalk. And right now, when every dollar counts, every support that we need to do for businesses counts, we need to be supportive of that. Not overly so, like I said, where we're doing things out of sync, out of against the law or whatever. I also, and I know Bill shares this same type of feeling. The county commissioners need to not be in a hurry to end the county commissioner meetings early or meet infrequently. I'm flabbergasted that he's really maybe one of the only supporters that thinks we should actually work the whole year and not have a summer vacation. Imagine how much we can get done, especially now that we've had all this COVID negative repercussions in the summer. Why should we all be on vacations up north? Collier County's not a college. It's not a high school. There's no summer vacation. We're all executives. I never shut down my base in the summer or my hospital or any of your businesses. So I think that's the time where we can meet more frequently, get more things done, make sure that we've got more activity in the community before season comes and more people get here. And this is the best time to do it post-COVID. So, when the question is, do you think we will have learned some things? We better. And, there's quite a bit in my background that some lessons I've learned from some pretty, horrific things like 9/11, but even some hurricanes that hit my bases and some big storms. This is like something we haven't seen before. I'm I'm the only opponent in my race that brings quite a bit of healthcare experience. I've run several military and civilian hospitals, in different parts of the country, and then here in even East Naples. I formed a very tight relationship with Paul Hiltz. His son graduated from the Air Force Academy recently, and so did I. So that's how we initially met. But I think having a relationship with him, and Bill does as well. I'm very impressed when, in the county commissioner meetings, when he says, hey, I just got off the phone with NCH. We need more commissioners who can do that. And I think all of that type of communication and accelerating our action to take action is what I think needs to come out of COVID, and something that I'm going to take a lot of pride in doing. But yeah, we better learn some things, and we got to really help these businesses. There's quite a few that still haven't opened up or are going to close quickly because they look at season as being the one thing to make up for all their losses in the off season. I mean, and you all have been affected as well. So, we can't kick the can or just sort of talk about it, is what I would say. And, I'm looking forward to being part of the solution with the other 4 commissioners and being credible and influential in those discussions. Sometimes there's a few commissioners that don't have the depth of the others. And that's where I think it takes influence to be able to not make them vote a certain way, but ask questions. And you saw it yesterday with some of the things that Bill was saying, where the other commissioners, they really didn't have a rebuttal because he was making such a strong argument. I think the more commissioners that can do that, then the more you can influence the decision at the end and feel good about it, not just feel like we've talked certain commissioners into something. But post-COVID, we need a lot more action and experience and help for our community. And I'm looking to bring that.
Thank you for joining us this week on NABORHood News. You can find us in the video gallery page on NABOR.com, so you'll never have to miss a show. See you next time.